Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Bill. This video is going to be a campaign update to the Fantasy Trip Pathfinder campaign I was running. Last video that I did for this, they had just converted their characters over to Pathfinder. And they had just spent a massive amount of money equipping themselves. So now, and this is not a complaint, this is a situation I'm in, but I'm trying to learn a lot from this to be able to use and give you all as gaming advice. They are now equipped as 20th level characters as a 5th level party. So, with a few limits, like their weapon couldn't be higher than a +3 attack and damage, or a +4 ability on it. In addition to that, they can't have spell resistance items. The main reason is A, they have to remember they have it, and B, I don't want to be rolling every time I'm using magic to beat a spell resistance that if they fight something more appropriate to their level, probably is going to beat it. So we just took those off the table and allowed them to do as they want. They weren't able to have access to Wish. Essentially, a spell level 7 was more or less the cap I was aiming for to give them access. So that's what they had to play around with. And 2 years had passed from the time they acquired the money to spending all the money and getting all the items. And they had decided they were going to the Greek islands. Last adventure is in the last update, so you can find that one, and you can find out what had happened previously to this one. So now we're diving into this one. As the chaos has begun swirling in town, the party had to figure out what they were going to do next. And they began dividing up and going different areas. The player that played the druid that had the raptor wasn't able to make this game session, but he was headed to the Wizards Guild to to tell the paladin cleric character that some shit was going down. We need help. Meanwhile, he didn't know about the invasion of the planar creatures that were inevitables, more or less. They were clockwork horrors. So that's going on in the center of town. In the outskirts of town where the druid was, swarms of undead rats are making their way in town. So one of the party members, Gargoyle, went and retrieved their boat. Then another character starts trying to retreat from the chaos in the center of town. One of them just plays as a statue on the fountain and just stays in that statue-like form as a gargoyle for a while until it could figure out what it wanted to do. When it does, I think this one was played by my friend Joe. When it does, it takes flight, and either this one was played by Joe or this one was played by me. One of the gargoyles takes flight to start looking around and see what he can do from above. The other gargoyle takes flight at some point and starts dropping rocks when he can out of his bag or glove of storing. I don't remember which he had, I just know it was a cool item and it befitted him. So while this is going on, the wizards take action. They come into town and they start destroying the clockwork horrors with their magic. The wizards broke up into teams of like 3 to 5, and they're just scattering into the streets trying to help out. Half of the town is fighting back. The other half is either cowering or retreating as fast as possible. And then the rats start entering town. The clerics, when the commotion began, the priests enter town and begin trying to help the regular soldiers, and then they start helping the mages until the rats enter town. At the same time that the rats are entering town, the centaur was challenging the demon clockwork horror that had came through. And he, in a powerful charge, does enough damage to destroy it outright, which is very impressive considering its challenge rating. I believe its challenge rating was 17, and I didn't nerf anything on it. And he destroyed it in one hit. Like I said, very impressive. From there was a ship, looked like an abandoned fishing ship or merchant ship, Norse-like, lands on the opposite shore of the town, and a fog begins rolling into town. The chaos of the battle starts getting worse. When the clerics start attacking the rats, they start destroying their numbers. And I don't mean the rats' numbers, I mean the clerics' numbers. Yes, they take out the rats with their... I do this holy radius, so much holy damage to the rats. But all the rats had runes inscribed on their heads, and all the runes had different spell effects. So, a carpet of rats, normal undead rat swarm would be 10 feet by 10 feet of rats. We can assume that's at least 100 rats or so. If all of them had even a 1 dice fireball rune on them, they would all do. Each swarm that would be taken out would do a whole 100 d6 fire damage. So they're doing fire effects, ice effects, lightning, negative energy effects, which are healing whatever rats are not affected from this channel, but all that damage is just dealt straight to the cleric and anyone around the clerics that are there fighting. So pretty much this move from the undead is wiping out the clerics in town very quickly. The spellcasters, after this starts happening, the mages of town begin retreating back towards their guild. And then the party grabs a few of them and says, "Come with us, we're going to leave town this way." And they begin communicating with what members are left in the town, and the spellcasters are on their way to pretty much vacate the whole town. And they're rescuing what townspeople they can. And then the Minotaur makes its appearance, and it's destroying shit left and right. This Minotaur, the party had fought previously in the fantasy trip. And it is in town, pretty much wreaking havoc. One of the gargoyles before this saw dodged most of the damage from a fireball that was dropped down on it, and more explosions happened in town. And then they saw a undead wyvern land at the temple. And from there, a grave knight in Pathfinder, pretty much a death knight from D&D, enters the temple and begins desecrating the grounds. And he, with the help of some magic that he brought with him, he finishes desecration quickly. And then the Minotaur, as the party has left town now, the Minotaur makes its way to the strongest thing in town, because that's really what he's there for, is to fight something really strong. And he pursued the party because they were very strong. So he's there, he fights the Grave Knight, and he is victorious, but it was not a super quick fight. The party watched most of that through a crystal ball. So they're retreating now outside of town. They see, after the Minotaur leaves town, they see what they believe is a lich come out of the desecrated temple. and it reanimates the Grave Knight. And after it does that, then I believe it disintegrated the Grave Knight afterwards and used it to do something else. I can't remember exactly what I had happen last. And that's the end of what has happened in that big battle of town. The party did a lot of impressive stuff. They changed, before the battle began, I had created a list of what would happen when and who would be victorious where if the party did nothing. So the party changed a lot of what was there, which was very entertaining. So now we get to figure out what they're going to do next. They're pretty much sure they're not coming back to that town. What clockwork horrors were left have been eating metal and reproducing. I'm sort of treating them like replicators off of Stargate. So that's going to be entertaining. I think I need to create stats for an iron clockwork horror. But other than that, that's everything. So until the next game, until I have something else to add, until we meet again,